Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's your favorite realtor, Dr. Yeti, and I am back with yet another video. Today, we are talking about the elephant in the room, okay? We're talking about the unspoken word, the word that is being threatened all over, and that is a recession. Is the housing market in a recession? Technically, a housing market can't be in a recession. The economy has to be in a recession, but I'm reacting to a video of a YouTuber talking about it's happening. Government admits to a big housing recession. I'm very curious to see what he's talking about and what does he mean by a housing recession. But yeah, let me know in the comments, do you believe that we're in a recession? Do you think that this is something that we should be prepared for, bracing ourselves for? Let me know in the comments.
The U.S. Treasury Secretary just warned of an impending housing recession, and he is blaming the Federal Reserve. Officials in the Trump administration are now acknowledging the housing market is in recession, with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent saying high U.S. interest rates may have caused a housing recession. In particular, he's warning of this recession and pointing the finger at the Fed. Specifically, he called on the Fed to bring down mortgage rates so they can end the current housing recession.
First of all,
and ultimately, what Treasury...
Wait. Before we even get too deep into it, what does it mean to be in a housing recession? What is a housing recession? Do I need to, let us look it up together, because that may be something I need to know. What is a housing recession? I've heard of economic recession, like the entire country being in a recession, but what is a housing? Maybe it's something that I'm not familiar with, and it's recession. Okay. A housing recession is a significant downturn in the housing market characterized by prolonged slowdown in activity like home sales, building permits, and new construction. Okay, it's often triggered. Okay, so there is such a thing as a housing recession. So let's see what the characteristics are. Because if you guys remember, if you were on my video from 2-3 days ago when I talked about the Atlanta housing market, let me just give a quick recap. The home sales went down, the inventory went up, the days on market I can't remember if it went up or went down. No, the days on market went down. I remember the days on market went down, and it was a very wonky situation. I just couldn't understand what it was. Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Because there are so many things indicating that's a buyer's market and a few things indicating that's a seller's market. And then also interest rates are low, but still yet the sales went down, but home prices were going up. So it's just like, what is happening right now? So let's see, based on Google's definition, if we are in a housing recession. Okay, so the first thing it says is decline in sales, which is what we saw in the Atlanta market. We did see a decline in sales, decreased construction. We're not seeing as much new constructions being built, but technically new constructions were just like skyrocketing because of C-19, right? But then again, I became an agent after C-19 happened. So I can't really speak on the decreased construction, but I will say that construction hasn't been as much because of the tariffs and because of the whole ICE situation, if you know what I mean. A lot of construction has kind of halted a little bit. However, I don't see that much of a difference in the Georgia market, but I might have to run the numbers later on and see what the numbers say. Increased cancellation. So home buyers may cancel contracts. So if you saw the video from yesterday when I reacted to the video on the home sales going down, there has been an increase in the cancellations. I think the guy said it went from 10% I think he said 11% last year to 14% this year. So there have been an increase in cancellations, and then negative builder sentiment. So home builders become pessimistic about the market. I don't really know much about that, but I'm guessing if there's decreased construction, there is a negative builder sentiment. Like if there's decreased construction, but I will say I will have to run the numbers in Atlanta to see if the construction aspect of things is significant. But I never heard of a housing housing recession. So, hey, listen, I don't want too many people coming at me now. This is my channel. I'm learning and I'm very open about not knowing things. Okay, I don't know everything. I didn't know that there was such a thing as a housing recession. I know there's an economic recession, but not a housing recession. Now, going back to the video, he made a statement that if, Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, needs to lower the federal interest rates so that the mortgage interest rates will go down, which is false. The federal interest rates does not affect the mortgage interest rates. The mortgage interest rates are affected by the bonds, the federal treasury bonds. So it is not affected by the Federal Reserve lower the interest rate. Now, it could be there may be a correlation, but correlation and causation are not the same thing. Just because federal interest rates went down and mortgage interest rates also went down doesn't mean that it's caused by one or the other. I will also mention that last year, around September, October, actually it was October last year, interest rates, the mortgage interest rates started going up, and around the same time the federal interest rates started going down. So I wouldn't really say that Jerome Powell is the reason that the mortgage interest rates are being affected, and honestly I do find that extremely disingenuous, but let's keep watching the video.
Secretary Bessent is talking about is the record low home sale volume in America today. Quite literally right now, at the end of 2025, we have the fewest amount of buyers on the housing market in 30 years. With the number of existing home sales in the US plummeting by 35% since the pandemic peak, now resting at 4.06 million on an annualized basis through September. That's roughly the same as what we saw at the depths of the last housing crash in 2008 to 2010. Now, the one aspect about this housing recession that hasn't come to fruition yet is a national home price decline. In fact, median sale prices on the housing market are still up year over year in over half the country, leading many people to believe that the housing market is doing.
Do you guys see what I'm saying? So I did the average housing prices, I think. I don't know if it was an average or median, but the housing prices are going up as well. And I'm very curious. I don't understand. Home prices are going up, but interest rates are going down. So you would think like, okay, maybe this is a good time for buyers to get into the market, but then the sales are going down as well. And if you watch the video from yesterday, I was talking about the fact that home prices are going down because the economy is a little bit wonky. People are not really sure about their jobs. They don't know if they're going to have their jobs tomorrow, right? The government is cutting a lot of things. You know, people are not being able to buy groceries with EBT. There's so many things happening. Like, people don't feel comfortable with buying a house right now. The last thing on people's minds is buying a house. And also, if you go on TikTok, just go on TikTok. People are just saying, in this economy, recession indicators, right? Those are key words that people just keep saying, you know, because people are feeling the brunt of this economy and what's going on right now. So like, the last thing on a lot of people's minds is buying a house. And as a realtor, don't get me wrong, I still have clients, and I'm very grateful to God about it, but this is a very interesting time that we're in.
Fine. However, those people aren't totally paying attention.
This video was created by AI.
Oh my goodness.
No expensive cameras.
As you can see that home values are now going down in around half of the US. Home values.
Let's see Georgia. Where's Georgia? Wait, where is, oh, Georgia's right there. He said that home values went down. Interesting. So all of Georgia went down. I don't know what this percentage means. Let me listen to what he said again. Home value declined. So did it decline by 2.2%? Like, what do these numbers mean?
Are now dropping in many different states.
He kind of went over Georgia a little bit. I'm gonna see if he's
in around half of the US.
There we go. So it says September 2024. 339. So it went down. Yeah, okay. So the home values went down in all of Georgia by about $7,000 year over year in all of Georgia. Interesting. But I guess my research when I was doing that, I didn't look at year over year. I looked at month over month. So interesting.
Home values are now dropping in many different states across the country on a year-over-year basis. In the Southeast, in Texas, in Arizona, even in California, Nevada, and Oregon, home prices are now dropping as well. And the reason that these prices are dropping is due to the extremely low buyer demand. So the question is, at what point should you jump in and buy a house? Are we going to continue to see these home prices decline in 2026? And are we going to see the decline spread? And just how bad is this housing recession going to get? Well, I'm going to answer those questions for you one by one in the next 3 minutes. But first, I want to talk about how big a deal it is that the U.S. Treasury Secretary is admitting there's a housing recession. Because after all, we still have a lot of people out there who are trying to say the housing market is healthy. A lot of people in the real estate industry try to claim that there's no downturn. They try to claim that prices will never drop. So the fact that Scott Bessent, who Donald Trump appointed to be Treasury Secretary, is going on record saying that we're in a housing recession is a big deal. And that we can't...
you know what? Let me go back to that Google search. What happens in a housing recession? Oh no, I didn't mean to click that. Okay, let's see what it says. Key characteristics of a housing recession: reduced building, lower demand, builder pullback, separation from economic recession. While a housing recession can be part of a broader economic downturn, it doesn't always have to be. The housing market can be experienced. I want to know, what does it mean? Like, how Treasury, okay, let's read the actual article, because I don't understand. Let's see. See, they even highlight the Fed does not set mortgage rates directly, but instead sets the federal rates, which is a short-term rate for commercial banks. Mortgage rates tend to follow the yields. Yep, like I said, yields of long-term bonds, which are influenced by investors' expectations about future Fed policy and financial conditions. I don't understand. What does it mean to be in what does it mean to be in a housing recession? Okay, yes, the buyers pulled back and all these other things, but what is the effect? You know what is the effect of a housing recession? That's the question. What is the effect? And I love that I'm learning about this in real time with you guys. A housing recession typically leads to slower sales and pressure on home prices to decrease. Okay, so home prices will start going down. Now the question is, should you wait for the home prices to start going down? Because one, interest rates are already going down, and also this is still a good time for you to negotiate prices to lower the prices. Like, this is what I said last month. I said that we are at a cusp of a buyer's market, which means we are in a season where it is ideal to get into the buyer's market, it's ideal to get into the housing market, to buy a house and negotiate the price of the home, because the seller probably has had the house sitting on the market for a long period of time and they want to get rid of it. So they may be willing to go down on price based on what you're saying. However, by the time everyone knows that the prices of homes are going down and interest rates are going down, it will be too late. The housing market flips really quickly. The moment it's a seller's market or the moment it's a buyer's market, so many buyers are going to flood into the market that is going to end up flipping it back to a seller's market really quickly. And so you don't want to be in the middle of a buyer's market. If you want to be in a buyer's market, you need to be in a buyer's market at the very beginning, where you are able to negotiate your terms. You definitely don't want to be at the end of a buyer's market. You don't want to find out too late that you're in a buyer's market. But, anyway, let's get back to the video.
Can't avoid acknowledging this recession for much longer on an industry-wide basis.
So basically, I'm so sorry to say this, actually I keep cutting the video. Basically, a housing recession is bad for sellers but good for buyers, which means it's a buyer's market, except it may be an extreme buyer's market. But a housing recession just sounds like a regular housing up and down. I just maybe there's something that I'm not seeing here, but a housing recession to me is basically a housing market that isn't it's a buyer's market, an extreme buyer's market, just like 2021. But he's saying it's similar to the crash in 2008, which I don't see that, at least not yet. I don't see it crashing because there is, at least I don't see what the bubble could be that will cause it to crash so much that we end up in the 2008 housing crash. I just don't see it. But I mean,
in real estate. Now, Besant did acknowledge that he does think the economy is in good shape overall, but that he thinks that there are sectors of the economy that are in recession, and Besant is blaming the Fed for causing a lot of these distributional problems.
They always want to
in
find
particular,
someone to blame.
Besant is warning
Politicians.
that the Fed during the pandemic, by cutting interest rates to 0% and printing money, created a lot of wealth and income inequality. He actually went on record in a Wall Street Journal op-ed a couple months ago explaining all of this, especially how damaging the Fed buying mortgages was to the US housing.
You know, I will say this. When everybody were getting those stimulus checks, when the feds were printing money and all these things were happening, I said, this is going to come back on the people. Somebody is going to have to pay for this. This is not just like, okay, we're going to print out free money. Oh, we're going to lower interest rates significantly. Oh, we're going to give out stimulus checks. Somebody is going to have to pay for it. And I remember all of this stuff happening, and I was happy with the stimulus check that I received. However, I said to myself, something ain't clean in the buttermilk. Something ain't clean in the buttermilk. You get this $2,500 check today, you are at risk of tens of thousands of dollars in debt, or losing a job, or just being underwater. It just, to me, didn't make any sense.
Meanwhile, Stephen Morand, who Trump just appointed to the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, is also arguing for a 50-point rate cut and 50 basis point rate cut at the next meeting, and says that the Fed risks a recession if it doesn't cut rates rapidly. But a good question is, can the Fed actually even save the housing market now in late 2025?
But how is the Fed going to save the housing market?
After all,
what does it have
the
to do
Fed
with the
has
Fed?
already cut interest rates 6 times over the last 14 months, reducing the interest rate from around 5.3% to 3.8%. And even with all those rate cuts, housing market demand keeps dropping. With Redfin
But one thing he's not mentioning, this guy who's reacting to this video, I've never seen his videos before, it's my first time reacting to this, is that he is not addressing the fact that the interest rates from last August have been, let me see if it was last August or this past August.
months, reducing the interest rate from around 5.3.
Okay, interest rates from last August 2024 dropped from 5.3 to 3.8. But if we look at what the interest rate we're looking at, like from August to now, interest rates have been going up steadily. It just now recently, like last month, started dropping. So why is he not addressing? That's why I'm kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this guy's responses. Why is he not addressing that, the fact that the Federal Reserve dropped the interest rates over time, but the mortgage interest rates have been going up? That's something that needs to be addressed. You can't just skip over that. You can't blame Jerome Powell for the housing market. You just can't. Jerome Powell has nothing. And Jerome Powell, by the way, if you guys don't know, is the chairman of the Federal Reserve. He has nothing to do with the housing market. It's correlated, but it's not caused by that. So I don't know. And mind you, if we see an interest rate at 3.8% with the housing market right now, we're looking at C19 times, okay?
3% to 3.8%. And even with all those rate cuts, housing market demand keeps dropping. With Redfin reporting that only 28 out of every 1,000 US homes changed hands this year, the lowest turnover in decades. You can see that since the Fed started rate cuts in 2024, the turnover rate, which is a proxy for home sales, has continued to drop with absolutely no recovery. However, I'll tell you what's going to bring demand back into the housing market, and that's lower prices. People are sitting on the sidelines right now. First-time home buyers, amateur investors, even Wall Street investors, they're sitting on the sidelines waiting for lower prices.
Why are you waiting for lower prices? There are homes that have been sitting on the market for 90 plus days, bro. You don't have to wait for the lower prices. You can just offer them. They might be willing to accept your offer. This is a time period where you see somebody's house sitting on the market for 100 days, you may be able to give them lowball offers and they may be willing to accept it. You can't just be waiting on the sidelines, y'all. You can't wait on the sidelines if you're a buyer.
Really the only thing right now that's going to get people coming off the sidelines to buy. I mean, if the mortgage rates, which are around 6.3% right now, drop to say 6 or 6.1, maybe 5.9,
what is
that's
mortgage
not going to be
today?
enough to stimulate a wave of
I think mortgage. Let me just keep watching.
demand, because the prices during the pandemic, they just went up way too much. Home values in America went up 40% over 5 years from 2020 to 2025.
It did. I showed you
Incomes
guys.
only went up by about 25%.
So interest rates went up. So now interest rates right now are at 6.2%. Yeah, a few days ago it was at 6.17. So now it's slowly starting to creep back up. But I mean, it might just be a small, quick retracement. It might not even be a up movement. It might be a small retracement, and then it's gonna keep going back down.
Prices going up more than incomes. That's a formula which says demand is going to drop. And actually, when you look at the data, the home prices right now are the problem. Inflation adjusted home prices are at their highest level ever, going back 120 years. Rent adjusted home prices.
Do you want to know why? Now that I think about it, the reason why a lot of these homes are still as high as they are is because when you think about C19, 2022 people were buying price homes way over asking. So now they're trying to sell their house where they don't have to owe any money and they don't have to pay anything out of pocket. Like, they don't want to have to owe anything after closing. So they're trying to make sure that they at least pay off that mortgage payment that they owe, their mortgage loan. They want to at least pay that off before moving forward with the house. So that may be one of the reasons why the home prices are staying as high as they are, because typically you want to own a house for over 2 years before you sell it. So they may have built enough equity on the house to sell it, but just enough. Matter of fact, they probably didn't even build enough equity, but just enough to sell it, pay off the agents, and move on with their lives. So that may be a reason why home prices are staying as high as they are, because if you guys saw, sales went down, but prices went up. Why is that?
Their highest level ever. And if we look at some data on Reventure app, everyone, we could see the overvaluation rate in different states in America. Just how overvalued are home prices in your housing market, and what's the downside? You can see quite a few states here have 25, 23, 24%.
I don't know what this website is, Reventure app. I might have to run my own stats. Maybe I'm gonna do that tomorrow. I'm gonna rewatch this video and come up with my own stats for Georgia specifically, because I have the MLS for Georgia, and I'm gonna run my own numbers and see if any of this makes sense, because 18.2% in Georgia, you find the cheapest homes. So you're telling me that a home is more overpriced in Georgia than it is in California? Let's be for real. I don't know.
Overvaluation, that says there's a lot of downside, and there's only actually 3 states in the US that are undervalued, suggesting that 2026 is going to be a year.
Here's a life lesson. Stop selling your online course. Online courses are stuck in the past. They are designed.
Suggesting that 2026 is going to be a year on the housing market of price drops, everyone. We're already starting to see it happen in roughly half the US. Florida, Texas, Arizona, even California is seeing declining prices. But now I think 2026 is going to be a year where those price declines spread to more states, more areas, more inventory hits the market. But folks, did you know that already national home price growth in America, home value growth according to data from Zillow, is actually already in a recession territory level? This is wild. This next graph I'm going to show you is going to blow your mind, but it's going to show you how dire this situation in the housing market is actually becoming. This graph shows home value growth in the US on a national basis going back to 1954. And what do you see today? September 2023 through September 2025, home values in America are only up 0.1%. Now, that's still flat. It's not down. However, take a look at the other periods. Now, take a look at the other periods where home price growth slowed to this level. One was the 2022 mortgage rate shock, where a lot of people thought the economy would hit recession. Another period was the 2008-2009 GFC, where we had that big drop in home prices during the last crash. Another was the 1991 Gulf War recession. Another period where home price growth got this low was the 1981-1982 recession when mortgage rates went to 18%. Another period where home price growth got this low was the 1973 recession, and then we have this overall big deflationary period in the market from 1954 to 1965. So what this graph shows is that while national prices haven't crashed yet, they've actually slowed to a level of growth that is consistent with an economic recession.
Let me see. And you know what? I've never seen this before. It's a Shiller's list. This is Shiller's graph. So I'm definitely gonna look into this because he is definitely right. Wow, this is actually pretty interesting.
We've actually really never seen home price growth slow this much in the last 50 years without there being a recession, with the exception being 2022, 2023, when we had this dislocation from the pandemic boom and then the quick correction. And so all of this points to, everyone, the story that I've been telling you for the last 4 years on this channel, that the housing market has entered recession, that the market continues to slow, and that price growth will continue to drift downward and go negative in more and more markets. When I started telling you all about this in 2021 and 2022, people said I was crazy. They said, Nick, no way is that right. They said, we're going to have millennials buy homes forever. They said, we're going to have Wall Street investors buy homes forever.
Now, who would
people
say
said
such a thing? I'm sorry. Why would anyone say that he is lying? Let's be for real here. Even before I became a realtor, understanding the kind of market we were in, how prices of homes were so low during C19 and the interest rates were also low, who would ever think that it would stay that way? Matter of fact, the level of correction after something like that would be insane, because the amount of bro, I'm so sorry. I don't think anyone would think you were lying, but I do agree. That would have been imagine that. Imagine the prices of the homes were really low, the interest rates were really low. Everyone and their mom was in a home market, buying the housing market. Everyone. Then 2022 came and they thought it was going to be the same thing. Then boom, it became a seller's market, and everyone. It just, you have to get in when you can. You don't want to wait until, it's a buyer's market. By the time you find out, most people already found out, then it ends up being a seller's market. And if you're not quick to pivot, you would think you're still in a buyer's market and you'd be trying to negotiate all, yeah. And that's kind of the situation a lot of sellers are in, because they're not quick to pivot.
Keep going up forever. However, 3 or 4 years later, more and more people in the mainstream now, including people in the Trump administration, are saying the quiet part out loud, that we are in a housing recession, and that this recession seems like it's going to get worse. And they say in the Trump administration, if the Fed doesn't cut rates, I don't know if rate cuts are going to do much. Folks, I want to show you right now some areas where home prices have really started dropping.
Why does he say the Feds are not going to drop rates? Do you guys not see? Let me show you this. Can you guys see this? Actually, let me pull it up on my computer so you guys can see it. I don't understand mortgage interest rates. If you look at the graph right now for the mortgage interest rates over time, we are at the lowest. Right now, I said it's starting to creep back up. It's at 6.22 today, but this is the lowest it's been all year. So why I don't understand why he keeps talking about the Feds dropping interest rates. The mortgage interest rates has been dropping over time. It's been dropping over time. We're at 6.22. The highest it was at 7.04 for the national average. So I don't get why he keeps saying the Feds need to drop interest rate. The Feds need to drop interest rate. That's the one part that I'm not really truly understanding.
A lot already. I'm going to show you some zip codes here, folks. We're not going to believe it. Home values are down anywhere from 9 to 18% year over year here on the west coast of Florida. Pretty much every zip code here in Tampa, St. Pete is negative here.
Florida is unique. Okay, they have their own situation in terms of insurance, home prices skyrocketing. It's a lot. Okay,
blue
So I don't
data
know
on
if I
Reventure
can
app showing values have declined already over the
use
last
Florida
year.
as an
Sourced
example,
from
to be
Zillow.
very
But you can
honest.
see the scale of these declines: 15%, 18%, 14% near the beach where we had the hurricanes. These are big drops. Then if we go to Houston, we could
All right,
look on
let's
the
see Houston.
north and east side of Houston. Values are down as much as 16% year over year. Values are literally crashing in some of these areas around Houston. If we go to Atlanta, we can see values are crashing in downtown Atlanta. They're crashing to the south side of Atlanta, down 15% year over year. Then if we go to Phoenix, we can see Phoenix is a sea of blue. We have some areas down almost 10% year over year near Phoenix, which is great news if you're a home buyer. More affordability is actively hitting the market in a lot of different areas. It just doesn't seem that way because a lot of the mainstream housing market news still talks about the National Home Price Index as if that really even matters for you in your local market, in your neighborhood. Some areas, they're down 15% already and are going to drop by more into the future. Other areas are still going up. The question is, just how bad is it going to get in your area? To find out, download the Reventure mobile app right now.
Yeah, see, that's what it is. I don't know. Like I said, maybe I'll run my own stats on exactly the numbers he was coming up with, because Georgia, at least I looked at the Atlanta metro area, is not really affected as much. But then again, people say that Atlanta it's its own country, right? So maybe we'll do a whole evaluation of what's going on. But yeah, y'all, let me know what you guys think. What's going on in the housing market? Do you believe we're in a housing recession? Have you ever heard of a housing recession before? And let me know if you're ever thinking about buying a house, if you think this is a good time to buy. And if you are looking to buy a house, you don't know where to start, you have no idea what to do, any of that stuff, click the link in my bio. I have a community, a free community, free 99, and I teach you everything you need to know about the home buying process from step A to step Z. I go live twice a week. So if you have any questions directly about your personal situation, that would be the best time for you to join. It's not going to be free forever, but it's free for now because I'm still building that community. But anyway, I want to hear your thoughts about what's going on in the comments. Make sure you like, you share, and you subscribe. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.